This week we're going to start looking at ground fighting, what happens when you end up on the ground. Now, we kind of started this earlier because we learned two different break falls, and those break falls you still want to practice because that's the first thing that will endanger you if you end up going to the ground is the actual fall. If you can fall safely or semi-safely, then you're ahead of the game. A lot of predators will try to take you to the ground, both to stun you or to disable you. Sometimes you'll get hit and you'll fall to the ground. Sometimes you'll be backing up and you'll trip over something. Somebody might push you. So the first thing is to practice your break falls and review those. Second is if I fall and there's somebody that is standing over me or trying to get at me and they are still standing. What we're going to learn today is just simply called the ground fighting position. I don't know any other word for it. There are a number of these. This is the one I prefer. My original karate instructor was also a federal probation officer, and he was an instructor for defensive tactics for a number of law enforcement agencies. And this is something that a lot of people in law enforcement learn. There are a number of things I like about it. First of all, from what I've seen of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and also one of my martial arts instructors, you'll see this as a ground fighting position. Okay? What's wrong with this is that this is really hard to sustain. Try it. What you'll find is that your upper thighs start cramping up, your core starts hurting like crazy. It's very difficult to maintain this. Not only that, but even though you can be mobile with it, my arms are not in play because they're supporting my weight. So I just think it's very untenable. Again, you'll see this a lot in martial arts. You'll see that position, but I don't believe that it's one that, well, look who's here. Come over here. So, since Bane's here, I'm going to have him help me. So, you go over here. I'm going to get in that position, and this is what I would do. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? The position that I'm going to show you, you can maintain for a long time. It doesn't wear you out. It does take a lot of energy. Ground fighting takes a lot more energy than fighting standing up. You have less opportunity for a break. It's much more dangerous. But this particular position is not only used widely in law enforcement, but I know of one situation where I think it saved a woman's life. So when I taught women's self-defense many, many years ago, this was a women's self-defense class, and I had a student who was a correctional officer. She worked at a women's prison, and this is going to be interesting. She worked at a women's prison, but she had a friend, female correctional officer, who worked at a male prison. Now, personally, if I was a woman and I was assigned to a male prison, I would try to get a transfer as soon as possible. Just because, as dangerous as the job is for correctional officers, if you're small, a small man, for instance, or if you're a female, you're probably at a disadvantage, especially because in prisons, a lot of those guys are big and they're strong because all they have to do all day long is work out. So, in her situation, again, this was a friend of my student. She was called to a cell where two cellmates were fighting. And she was assuming that she had backup very close, And so she stepped into the cell to try to break this up. Well, backup was not close. She was all alone. And these two guys turned on her. And they knocked her down. And what she did was she assumed this position. And the reason this woman told me this was because I was teaching it in the class. And she said, yeah, that's what we're taught in corrections. And this is what happened. So she assumed that position, and she radioed for help. And she was able to keep two people at bay until help arrived. And help didn't arrive very quickly. So this is a very viable position when you're on the ground, and we're going to take a look at it now if I can get Bane to move. Okay, can you come over here, buddy? Come over there. Okay. Right there. Right there. Right there. We're going to take a break.